What's up, everyone? Hey, Mike Hambright from flipnerd.com. I recently hosted an online event for members of my professional real estate investor Facebook group, which you can access by visiting flipnerd.com/professional. It's only for professionals, not new folks, but I wanted to share this with everybody. And today I wanted to share this amazing event that we call the Freedom Series with 8 industry legends. Today's episode is with Mr. Gary Harper. But as we're getting started here, I'm about to ask Gary a question here. I'm going to go ahead and ask him, but I'm asking you guys too. So if you could answer this too, if you joined us yesterday and you already answered it, that's cool. You don't have to answer again. You're welcome to. If you did not, then let us know what you think. But Gary, what and everybody else, what does freedom mean to you? So Gary, go ahead and share what you think that means. And then for everybody else, tell me what you think it means. What does freedom mean to you?
So I think the canned answer is, be able to do what you want, when you want, with whomever you want to do it with, right? Like I feel like it's very canned and it's cliche to a degree, but it really does have a good meaning behind it.
Right.
And so I think I want to hear that. I want to hear the details of it. Like, what does that mean? And I think to me it's on Sunday, we were in Florida and we were at Orange Beach, and it was this being able to make the decision to go home or stay another day or, just decide, really kind of at last minute if we wanted to. I told my wife, I said, what's really cool is like we could literally decide if we want to stay another week right now. We just stay here.
Yep.
And I think that's really freedom, is just being able to make that free decision, that,
flexibility.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the other thing too, I think for freedom for me, because I worked a job for 20 years, is honestly, and this is probably not going to go well with many people because of the whole hustle thing. But, I slept till 9:30 today. I wanted to,
Yeah.
I don't feel bad. I wasn't sick. I wanted to sleep in.
Yeah.
So I did. And then I had, went to lunch with my friend Josh Culler today and up and then came back from that. And it's like, Mike, I got a text from you and I'm like, man, I love, it's being able to react and not have to have everything planned out. Right. That's freedom for me, is to be able to do what I want, right?
Yep.
With whom I want. And I think those are prime examples of that for me.
Yeah. And I think, back to the, with whom you want, right. And what you want is, I know you have a servant's heart too. You're really big on helping people. And obviously you remember the Investor Fuel Mastermind, you help a lot of people in there. You help me a lot, all those things for sure. I think it's having the flexibility to do more of that, more giving, more helping, more. And truthfully, sometimes it's, I don't want to say an ulterior motive. Sometimes you have a business. I have a business. I've built a business around, you have too, around helping people, where we all win, right? So it's not just it's not all not for profit, but we try to help people all the time. Sometimes we benefit as well.
Yeah.
But I think it's being able to do more stuff like that. You just don't, we all still have things that we have to do. It comes with the territory. When you own a company, if it's a huge company, you might be able to find a way to, you have a CEO running it and all these people. I mean, we're more of active companies where we're still involved, or still the face of it, or still, the go-to person for things. But I do know this, like you said, I could get up tomorrow and say, you know what, I'm going to cancel everything today. I'm just going to chill out, or something happens family wise. I'm like, I'm going to take a week off. I'll figure out how to make it work and fill in the gaps. But when you have a traditional job, that's not possible, right?
Yeah, and I think this kind of summarizes it for me. About 10, 15 years ago, about 15 years ago, my wife's grandpa passed away, and I was driving to Chicago, and my boss, Mike, it was corporate America. I was an executive, and he was the senior vice president, right? So I walk in, and I said, listen, I got to leave. My wife's grandpa just passed away. And the man's response was, hey, Gary, you got things to do today. And I said, but I need to be there for my wife. And he says, hey, life's for the living, not the dead. Right.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, so fast forward to January, my wife's mom passed away, and it was in a car accident 3 days before Christmas. And we canceled everything for 30 days. Right. We just disappeared for 30 days.
Yeah.
And we went to Disney World, and we went to places to spend time together as a family, to refresh, and we were able to do that just because we decided to, right? I think that's pure freedom. And I think a little further deeper, that I don't think people really realize this freedom, is that being in America, Independence Day is coming up, 4th of July, man, we got the freedom to start our own business.
Right.
That's a beautiful thing of freedom. If you really want to back it up, everybody on this call to a degree is free, because you made the choice to start your own business. You're not a slave to somebody today. And I love that.
Yeah. One thing Roddy was on yesterday, one thing he says, we have the freedom to fail.
Yeah.
Right. Like we can try stuff. And that's the beauty of with entrepreneurship, man. I mean, you and I are both the same. We failed more than we've been successful, but we couldn't be successful until we had those failures. But we had the ability to fail and kind of fail forward and just like shake it off and move forward. Right. And everybody that's watching this right now has the same thing. We fail every day. Every time somebody tells you no is a failure. When you're trying to buy houses, no, we hear no way more than we hear yes. Right.
That's true.
We have the ability to do that. And the more freedom you can get in your business, which is going to be my next question, the more freedom, meaning from my perspective, the more you're, I guess, self-employed and the more you're a business owner, like you're getting more of your time back because you can build a team. The more of that freedom you get, and the more opportunities you have to try stuff that you might fail on, right? So that is my next question, Gary. So how you work with a lot of investors, you help a lot of investors take their business from, 30 miles an hour to 60 and take it to the next level. How do investors just generally kind of get more freedom in their life? And again, we're kind of defining freedom here in the context of our businesses is get more of your life back, less involved in the day-to-day.
Yeah, I think the SE quadrant is, and we talk about freedom. That's the whole reason like Harper exists. It exists to take companies and people from self-employed to business owner, right?
Right.
And that bottom box of investor, that's teaching people how to invest. That's not our play, right? But we want to put you in position to be able to invest properly. And I think it ultimately comes down to time. Like, where do we spend our time, right? And so when you're self-employed, you're exchanging time for money. When you're a business owner, you're exchanging other people's time for money. Right. Instead of your own. And I think that's where it is. And so like, how do we do it? That's the question, I think. And the answer is I think most people miss this, but I think first it starts with our mindset. Probably biggest thing for me with I think Mike, now we've helped over 360 entrepreneurs, and it's crazy thinking about that over the last 3 years. But with that said, like 360 people had to get rid of the mindset of like, it's all about me. It's all on my shoulders. It's honestly one of the hardest things is to get somebody to shift that mindset. We can put systems and processes and people and all that in place. But if people have this dictator mindset, they never truly become free, right? They become a single point of failure in their own business, and it collapses on them, And it's mindset is probably one of the biggest things for me, I think. And then next is knowing your numbers.
Yeah.
Know your numbers, people. That one thing that frustrates me the most is like, you cannot feel free if you don't know your numbers. Right?
You can't. Yeah, you can't. You have to manage your business by the numbers, by a scorecard, right? And you can't have employees and not have a scorecard.
No.
Like and I think part of what happens, and there's a lot of real estate investors, that are doing, and maybe some people watching today that are doing a deal 2-3 a month. And they're doing it all mostly, or husband and wife team, or father, son, could be a lot of scenarios there. It's enough to earn a respectable living, probably more than you're making in a working for somebody else, but it's still very much a job. And a lot of stuff's in your head, right? And you're like, just kind of flying by the seat of my pants. I can make it work. I know the money's coming in, but that's not you're still self-employed, right? You're not a business owner. Whenever you start to get to the point to where, and by the way, you can't get to a business owner if you're not operating from a scorecard, tracking your kind of KPIs, the numbers every day in your business, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
And I always tell, I've come up with this kind of a thought lately here that I've been sharing a lot. And I feel like in order to become free, we have to be confident. And we become confident really in 3 areas. We have to be people confident, right? We have to be confident in the people that we have around us. We have to be metric confidence, which is knowing your numbers. And then last is we have to be money confident. Like, to get the freedom, to true freedom, you got to be confident that you have the money that allows you to be free. You got to be confident in your numbers, right? Metrics. And then you got to be confident in the people and trust in the people that are allowing you to give to not be there, that you're using their time. Yep. And so I think it's confidence. It comes down to that, my whole philosophy in life is 3 to thrive. And I found that to be the play too. Like, if we're going to be free, we have to be confident in those 3 areas. And where I see entrepreneurs fail or struggle is like, they're confident in their people and they're confident in their money, but they're not confident in their numbers. Or they're confident in their numbers and they're confident in their people, but they don't know if they're making money.
Right. So, and you're just fooling yourself. I mean, it's kind of like, this analogy of like, you're trying to lose weight You get on a scale, that's not as low as I wanted. And the next thing you know, you're like, well, let me take my boxers off. And like you're going to lose an extra 3 ounces by taking your boxers off. You're only fooling yourself, right? So at the end of the day, it's like, that's how a lot of real estate investors are. They're like, it's good enough. You're just fooling yourself. You're choosing to not be held accountable.
Yeah.
And we're all guilty of it. We've all done, stuff like that. But if you really want to grow your business, you've got to have a scorecard that you're looking at and you be held accountable for, and you can hold your team accountable. And honestly, I think one of the great things that comes out of that, especially with all the technology we have over the last few years in the real estate space, is once you have a scorecard and you can see what's going on, you can basically potentially manage your business from virtually, right? Yeah. So you can travel, you can do things, you can see what's going on in your business. We all can sign contracts from iPads and all that stuff, but now you can see a scorecard of what's going on and you're looking at, it's like your dashboard, right? You're looking at what's going on. You don't necessarily have to be anywhere physically.
Yeah, numbers tell a story. I say numbers don't lie, people do. And so like as soon as somebody calls me and says, "Hey, can you help me?" and they start telling me about how great they're doing or this or that, I just immediately go, "Hey, what are your numbers?"
Yeah.
Like I almost even turn off everything they're telling me and just look at the data, right? Because you can be persuaded one way or the number. Numbers don't lie.
Yeah, for sure. And especially in real estate, a lot of our numbers do have asterisks next to them, right?
Right.
Probably more than not necessarily all industries, but in our industry, it's like a lot of that.
I mean, and then we could have different definitions for the metrics too. Like, qualified lead. Well, what's a qualified lead to you versus me? What's gross profit versus my gross profit? Like, you know what I mean? Like, everybody has. People get up in different groups and stuff, and they'll say, well, "I'm making $2 million." I'm like, wait a minute, time. Are you making $2 million gross or net? Right?
Exactly.
And what is net to you? Right? Like because somebody will come back to me like, "I can't believe that guy's making $2 million." I'm like, yeah, he's making it gross. He's not making a net.
Right.
So,
right.
That's funny too.
Yeah. So guys, if you have any questions for Gary, chat him in here. We want to make sure we tackle him. He really helps a lot of people kind of grow their business, take it to the next level. So Gary, another question is, what do you think differentiates people? One of the things that you and I know both happens with a lot of smaller real estate investors, not to say anything bad about small real estate investors. That's not a jab. It's just a lot of people stay small because they can't get out of their way. Sometimes they're not willing to invest in people. Sometimes, again, they don't know their numbers. We're frugal, we're cheap. We're cheap asses, right? So I want to buy houses cheap. I want to get a contractor that's going to get it done cheap. So sometimes we cheap out on people, and honestly, the skin comes off of our back, right? So I think a lot of people are just like, I'll just do it myself, right? So I know that's part of it, but what kind of differentiates the investors that they go from, kind of zero to here, doing a couple deals a month, versus those that are going to, 5+ deals a month? And I said this yesterday too, everybody, give you the caveat. The goal is not units. Sometimes it's easier for us to say units, like who cares about units?
Yep.
The goal is not even money. Like, I know we all want to make more money, but the truth is when you do more deals where you can scale your business, that gives you resources to truly build a team and start to buy your time back, right? So when you're small, you just can't get there. So what kind of differentiates those that are willing to take that risk, that perceived risk at that next level?
Well, so I think some people grow to higher levels, just straight willpower gets them to a higher level, right? And some people, they don't have the talent, they don't have the knowledge, something, and that willpower is not enough to get them to that next level. And so, first of all, I think, people allow fear to slow them down. They're fearful of what they don't know. Yep. People allow fear to either cause them to do something or not do something. But I'm reading a book right now. I just finished it, and it's called Why Willpower Doesn't Work. Right? And it's a really good book. I'd highly recommend anybody read it. It's helped me a lot, actually. And 4 things I took notes from it. 4 things I walked away was, number one, and it rings so true to how when I help one guy and I help somebody or business and then help a different business, and how, and I see growth in people we work with, but like, why does this guy like sputter along? Why this guy just propels forward and hits full throttle gas? And so these are the 4 things. Number one is, you don't know what you want. They're just winging it. They're just literally, especially some of the younger entrepreneurs, they just don't know what they want. And they, maybe it's, new toy or something, but they really don't know why they're doing it. Number 2 is, your why isn't strong enough for your goals. right? Your why isn't strong enough for your goals. So like the reason you're doing it, once you do know what you want, the reason you're doing it, it's not enough to push you and propel you to the goals that you want to hit. Like when a little opposition comes in, it slows you down, it just stops. And the why is like, it's not this big of a deal.
I talked about that yesterday. Well, let's come back to that one.
Yeah. I mean, I recently saw a guy literally leave the real estate industry and go after something else because his why is so strong that his goals are bigger than what real estate or that niche of real estate was getting him.
Yeah.
Right. And so number 3 is for me is you aren't investing enough in yourself or your dreams. You know, I think people fail to invest in themselves. And I'm not just talking about hiring a coach, and I think you should. I'm not trying to put a plug in there. I'm also talking about like truly investing in yourself, like reading. Guys, I read 3 books a week.
Wow.
3 books a week. I always have. Susan and I, we have a little challenge going where we challenge each other how many books we can read. And she whips my butt. I'm telling you, she kicks my rear end. But and I've never won. Like I've never won because I didn't start reading till I was 35 years old. And my wife like always pushed me, Gary, you need to read. I was the executive in a Fortune 500 company and still didn't read. And so she's like, you need to read. You need to read. And you know what? I couldn't get locked in. So she had me, of all things, and the movie just came out on it. She had me read the book Artemis Fowl, a 12-year-old's book. Why? Because she had to like teach me how to learn to read. Not read, but like learn to love to read.
Yeah.
You know? And so I had to get into that. And now I consume books. Like I love books. And so I think you ought to take time to invest in yourself. And number 4, this is the one that I think really cripples people. And it's your environment opposes your goals. Your environment opposes your goals. You don't allow yourself to be in the right environment that supports where you want to be. Mike, one of the best things that people get and walk away from Investor Fuel with is their environment. Yeah. They're all going towards the same goal, right? Like, why wouldn't you be around people that want to be where you want to be, right? Like, it's not even being around people that are already where you want to be. It's as much about being around people that want to be with you on the journey to get to where you want to be.
Yeah.
You know, but when you're around people go, you're stupid. Like, you're going to do that. I mean, when somebody's opposing your goals, you're not going to get there. We've all heard that you're the sum of the 5 people you hang around with the most. In this book, it actually goes further and says you're actually the sum of the 5 people that the 5 people hang around.
Yeah, a network.
Yeah, and he's like, you know, think about it. You eat something, you're not just eating that, you're eating what it ate, right? Like, so you got to understand, be very careful who's around you in your network because it's not just them, it's the people downstream from them too that might be influencing you. And so those are the 4 reasons when you ask that question, I think hard on it. I go, you know what? Those are it. 1 is people don't know what they want. Number 2, their why isn't strong enough. Number 3, they don't invest in themselves. We get people hire us and we go out and one and done. And then they call me 6 months later and like, well, we're not quite, you know, things don't feel quite as dialed in as they did when you left. Well, yeah, because you stopped working on it, right? Like the people we see the biggest impact with them, we go back every quarter. Luciano in your group, almost 3 years now, he refuses to let us miss coming out every quarter. And you know, how much hiccups does he really have every quarter when he comes in the Investor Fuel?
Yeah, not much. He's running smooth.
Yeah, because
buddies in the past couple of years, he's dramatically increased his business probably 400 or 500%, right?
Yeah. But he doesn't come in like every quarter like some, you know, the world's falling apart, right? Why? Because he invests in himself every week.
Yep.
Every quarter. I think that's really important. And then he stays in, you know, he's not one of these guys that come and go from the mastermind, you know, like he's just been there. He's Mr. Consistent.
Yeah.
You want consistent results. You got to be consistent. As you go, so go they.
So Gary, the second thing you said was your why is not big enough to hit your goals. I think that's effectively what you said, right?
That's exactly what I said. Yeah.
So you know, one of the challenges, I talked about this with somebody that was in the event yesterday, is that I think one thing that happens is I'll give an analogy of a contractor first, but I know real estate investors do the same thing. The contractor that makes like $60,000 or $80,000 a year, and that's how much he made last year. This year he makes that by like September, and he's like, I already made my money. So I just take the rest of the year off. They disappear. You know, people are like, where'd my contractor go? He's like, oh, I'm taking the rest of the year off. Now, look, we all want some level of lifestyle business to do what we want. But as an entrepreneur, I don't see that path as like, well, if I win the game based on some metric too early, I just quit and give up. You know, I don't see that. It's like, okay, we're always usually trying to take it to another level. But I think a lot of real estate investors do that. They get comfortable right? It's like, well, hey, initially for me, and it was the same thing for me. It was more about survival initially. Like, lost my job, have a baby, my wife's dependent upon me because she quit her job. This shit has to work. Like, I have to pay the bills. We have to get insurance. We have to do all those things. And a lot of us have been there. It'd be real easy. And I think a lot of people get to the point to where like, hey, in my corporate job, I made $50,000 a year. Now I make 150, and it's way more than I could have ever made before. And they just kind of set back and like accept that. Right.
Yep.
Now on some levels, I want to say, if that's where you're at and you're cool with that, that's okay. Because I think honestly, there's some peace of mind of being content. Like, my butt's always burning. I'm never content. Like, I always want to go to the next level. It's a little bit of a curse for some of us, right? But talk a little about how those that, they say they want more, but like you said, it's their why is not strong enough to get through that. So what they try to do, it pains their mind, right? They're like, I can't get there. And it's like, well, you're not even really trying. You say you do it, but your actions don't meet it. So how do people break through? There's a really long question for how do people break through that barrier where they're comfortable but not happy with where they're at yet?
Yeah, it's just like anything. Go back to the weight loss thing, right? Like, that's a perfect example of how somebody sets a goal and then they lose 10 pounds and are like, I lost 10. I mean, I lost 10, right? Hey, I've done that. Actually, I lost
pretty good
10 pounds, Mike. I'm good, bud. I'm going to be eating burgers because I get rewarded for that, right? So it's this mindset thing. But at the end of the day, I think it's accountability. I go around and tell people,
true.
I don't think there's too many people that haven't heard me say my 10-year goal is to give $2.6 million away to the Lord's work. Right? I've said that many times from stage. Like, it's almost in every slide I have. And people are like, well, you bragging? I'm like, no, it's accountability. If I tell everybody in the world in 2026, when people walk up to me, I want people to say, hey, where are we at with your 2026 goal? Your 2.6 million. Right? Like, because here's the thing. It's a big freaking goal. Like, I'm scared to death of it. Honestly, I'm scared to death of it. But it's so big. It's my why, and I need it to hold me accountable. Yeah. But I also need everybody around me to hold me accountable to that goal.
Yeah, that's important. I'll say, and I'm going to throw myself under the bus a little bit here, is, about a year and a half ago, I hired a personal trainer. I lost like 30, 35 pounds. I've gained most of it back now. Why did I gain it back? I fired my personal trainer. I was like, I don't need him anymore. And then my bad habits drifted back. And I'll be honest with you, I like margaritas and chips and salsa. I'd like to eat. But when I had a personal trainer, and the thing is here's the crazy thing. My personal trainer was in the UK. He wasn't even here. Yeah. But just the fact that I had to, like, I met with him every week, and he actually had login access to my app so he could see, am I exercising? Weighing myself, like, where am I at with all these things? What am I eating? He can see my calorie counts. And every once in a while, he's like, oh, slipped up yesterday. I just had somebody looking over my shoulder that, truthfully, it was maybe less of them holding me accountable than me holding myself accountable for fear that they're going to say something to me, right?
So I'm not sure anybody's going to come up to me in 2026 and actually ask the question. But you know how freaking scared I am that somebody's going to call me out in that time frame and I don't hit it. Right? Like, that's what scares me and that's what drives me. But when you have a purpose, you have a cause, you have a passion, and then you put accountability around it with goals. Yeah. And then you speak, because here's the thing. I tell people this. I say, when we create a vision plan, which is a part of the purpose, the goal is the why, and we don't tell anybody, we let our vision die the day we create it. Yeah. Right? When you don't speak it, it doesn't come alive. And if you don't speak it, then it doesn't breathe air, and it doesn't create accountability. Speaking is not about doing it for us. It's about creating accountability to us. Right. And so I think that's totally important.
Yeah. We did our level 10. We went through initially, I guess, probably 2 years ago, we went through our EOS implementation with you. Just had our quarterly level 10 here last week, had our weekly level 10 this morning. We do it on Wednesdays. And, we have a scorecard. We know, and last week when we did our quarterly goals, we said, what are we going to, for each person on our team, what are our rocks? What are our 90-day goals, right? And so, and then every week we look at that, like, where are we at? Where are we off? And this year this past quarter, we were able to get more granular on some stuff around lead gen and stuff that, we just kind of felt like it was hard to know where to dive in. and we kind of got a little more granular there. But my point is every week the team has to come together. They know they've got to report out how they're doing or where their numbers are. We have a scorecard that we look at, and we're either going to celebrate or not, or at least we know where we're at. And it forces you to prepare, right? It forces you to think about it versus flying by the seat of your pants, which a lot of us do as real estate investors.
Yeah, well, that's very true.
Yeah.
Well, it's good to hear you guys are still doing that. I mean, it's important. It's important, guys, as a business owner, that you create focus on a 7-day and a 90-day cycle right now. And if you want true freedom, you got to get consistency with that. And I've been talking a lot lately, Mike, about the broken window experiment. Have you ever heard of that? The broken
window theorem? Yeah, I just mentioned it to my son last week about something else that he got.
Really?
He didn't get in trouble, but I was like, anyway.
I mentioned it to my son too, because I was like, he had a brand new truck. Remember, he got that truck a year or so ago, and he paid for it, and he took great pride in his truck. But then he wrecked it. He wrecked it actually 3 times, and the third time he wrecked it, he backed down a side of a trailer, just destroyed the whole side of the truck. And so I made him pay for it. Obviously, he's going to pay it out of his own pocket. I ain't paying for it. And it took him a while to save up the money and work for it. And it was $6,000 to get it fixed. I wasn't letting him turn it into insurance. And he told me, we were talking about this broken window theory, and we got talking about the importance of taking care of stuff. And he's like, Dad, you're right. I let my truck go after it got hurt, after I wrecked it. He stopped cleaning the inside. He stopped taking care of it. Right. Yeah. And, for those of you that have not heard of the broken window theory, it basically talks about if in a neighborhood that the windows that get broke that don't get cared for right away, it'll actually create a ripple effect in the economy or in that area and cause a degradation of that area, right? People stop caring and taking care of things. I don't know if you heard about the experiment they did, but they put a brand new car in a high crime infested area, and they were wanting to see how long it took for this car to get stripped. Brand new, never been touched, almost 0 miles on it, clean, straight from the dealer. And that car surprisingly sat there for I think they said multiple weeks without being touched. And then to check the theory, they walked up and they broke the window and walked away. And it took 45 minutes after breaking the window for the car to get stripped.
Yeah.
Right.
People are like, yeah, well, somebody else has already destroyed it. I might as well do more.
Yeah. Well, the value is gone. And so I've been asking people lately, if you want true freedom, right, it comes down to fixing your broken windows in your business.
Yep.
Right. You got to take the time to focus on what I call the fundamentals of business. Having that vision, having that quarterly meeting, having that weekly, and Mike, here's a it's a little bit tough. So you smack me later for asking. So start of your level 10, did you still do the good news?
We do.
Wow. I love it. Here's why I ask. Broken window number 1 in business. You want to hear the first window that gets broken?
Yep.
It's gratitude. The first window we see broken when the business starts to degrade and get worse and go down and they stop doing things is they stop that part of their meeting. They stop sharing gratitude. Everybody calls me all the time. Why do we have to do this? Seems like a waste of time. And I go, you know what? The very first window we break in our business is we're not grateful. And when ingratitude shows up, gratitude gets replaced by something. It actually gets replaced by entitlement. And what happens is everybody starts to feel very entitled. I deserve this. I deserve to be successful. I deserve for this to happen. I deserve to make money. I deserve for you to work hard for me. Right? And the entitlement shows up. When entitlement shows up, that's the beginning of the end.
Yeah.
Right?
That's great. No, that's good. That's good. So Gary, what do you think? What's kind of the biggest piece of advice? I'm sure we've covered some of this a bit. The biggest piece of advice you can give to people that are watching right now to get more freedom in their life. And again, everybody defines freedom differently. I think it all means, I think we all agree with your original front is doing more of what I want, when I want, with whom I want, right? But maybe you could just share your biggest advice for those that are listening. They're all real estate investors, how they can get more freedom in their own life.
Well, I think in order to get more freedom in your life as a real estate investor is it starts with you. You gotta know who you are, right? You gotta know what your strengths and what your weaknesses are, what you're good at, what you're not good at. And then I think you need to delegate to people that are going to fulfill your weakness. Right. And then, and then build trust, you know, but ultimately, if you're going to get completely free, if you're going to get what we're talking about today, you've got to know your numbers. You've got to be cash confident, and you've got to be people confident. You got to trust those three things. And that would be my biggest advice. If there was nothing more that you're going to go work on, know your numbers. Make sure you have, you know, Harper talks about the scales of business, and it starts with like, you know, startup, pre-profit, profit, scaling, and then difference, like making a difference, mattering. Those are the 5 layers of business. And too many people want that freedom so bad. So you got to evaluate where you are. Are you in startup? Are you in pre-profit? You in profit? Are you in scaling? Because you can't get to matter and make a difference, retire, and be free if those other 4 stages haven't been hit yet. And so many people want to go from stage 1 and 2 straight to stage 5.
Yep.
You know, we all talk about earning the right. Mike, you and I didn't get here overnight. It took me 20 years. Right?
Yeah.
Like everybody wants to go from pre-profit straight to scaling, and you don't have the cash confidence to scale yet. You know, if you're in pre-profit today, you got to get your people dialed in, you got to get your processes dialed in, and you got to get your numbers, metrics dialed in. Right? And you got to get like profit first. You got to start dialing that in. Once you get the profit, you start making money, and you got money going in the bank. The next step, now that's scaling, and that's that delegating part, getting rid of the things you don't want to do. Start that layer of freedom, and then you get through that. And you know, none of us know when that light switch is flipped and it's free. It just happens, you know. And we don't even know. Just kind of like morphs into it, right? And one day you're like, they don't need me anymore. Oh, I'm gonna go to the beach.
Yep.
You know. Awesome. So I don't know. I think that's my advice. My advice is know where you are and know what the next steps are for you.
Good stuff. Well, Gary, thanks for sharing some time with us today. Thanks for joining us for sure, buddy. Always great to see you.
Yeah, you too. No question.
Tell everybody, for those that are listening right now, you help a lot of people in a lot of different ways, where they can go just learn more about Harper, your wife's company.
Yeah, it is mine. Harper. It's sharperprocess.com is our website. And then you can find us on Facebook at Harper Business Solutions.
Awesome. You guys go check it out if you're trying to scale your business to the next level. Gary's been a huge resource for me and my friends, our Investor Fuel Mastermind, a lot of people in the industry. So go check them out. So Gary, tell Susan hi. We'll see you guys soon, okay?
All right, bud.
See you, bud. Bye. Hey, I hope you enjoyed our Freedom series, which includes 8 shows with 8 talented real estate industry legends. How can we work more together? I help real estate investors in a few different ways. I'd love to help you get to know you better. And here's how. I run the Investor Fuel Mastermind. It is a leading mastermind association of America's top real estate investors. You can learn more about it at investorfuel.com. In fact, our next meeting is coming up very fast. If you go to investorfuel.com, you can learn more, schedule a call to talk with our team. The second way is I help real estate investors generate better leads. I'm the co-founder of an agency that we call The Investor Machine. You can learn more at theinvestormachine.com. We help take consistent and high quality lead generation off of your plate so you can focus on getting more of your life back and driving the business. The third way is I have a professional real estate investor network group. It's a free Facebook group for professional real estate investors only, not for newbies. I have a soft spot in my heart for newbies as well, and I'll talk about that in a second. But if you're experienced, if you're actively doing deals each and every month, you should check out our professional real estate investor network by going to flipnerd.com/professional. That'll redirect you to the right Facebook group. And last but not least, for the past almost 7 years, we've created over 1,500 video podcast shows, hundreds of blogs, lots of free training, all on flipnerd.com. You can go there and check it out.